All right, the one and only Sammy is back from Vintage Jewelry Addicts. I am so thrilled and excited to welcome you back to the podcast. How have you been, my friend?
Thank you, Desiree. Well, honestly, I've been cold the time of filming. We are
I
in the
bet.
dead of winter. Yes. And we'll talk about this later, but I get to see you in sunny Las Vegas in a few weeks. So I'm really
Yay.
excited about that. But overall, I've been well. There's been some ups and downs. We were actually chatting before this. Do I have a little echo?
I don't hear it,
Okay.
at least not now.
Okay, cool. I heard it for a second. Sorry, guys. We always want to mind our P's and Q's with tech, but we were talking about this before we started recording, how there's some ups and downs with the economy, and as resellers, as people that want to motivate other resellers and coach other resellers, it can be a little, how do I say, disheartening to have to face that reality. Um,
Yeah.
but I still remain optimistic and also come back to the fact that the only constant is change, right?
Right.
And so we just have to keep changing. But Vintage Jewelry Addicts has been growing, and
Yes. Yes. I've been seeing the numbers
yes,
climbing up.
yes, yes. I just checked actually. I just checked our year stats. Let me open it up for you guys. I put it on my dashboard. So in 2025, today is February 20th. We've sold $33,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. Keeping $33,000 of vintage jewelry and accessories out of the landfill.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, because I think so many people are getting into jewelry, especially vintage jewelry. And so part of the excitement, part of the passion is finding and saving and recovering those pieces. I know for me, like I just love to find something that, that somebody didn't want, and then I'm finding it for a deal. So that's totally exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And what's most, how do I say, encouraging for me is witnessing new live sellers
Mhm.
find their confidence and find their capability. And I think that that's what the beautiful thing about what the platform is called District. And so District hosts Vintage Jewelry Addicts amongst other marketplaces that are owned and operated by different individuals. So Desiree, if you wanted to launch your own marketplace, you could. But we are there to help train and educate and support. And so there's been a number of people that have come on board as sellers who just didn't know how to go live or just didn't have that push. And now that they have these skills, they can apply them to whatnot. They can apply them to Poshmark. They can apply them to Facebook, TikTok Live. Like there's just so many ways to go live and to sell. And while selling live is not new, it's still new. And so we don't know what's coming. And for anyone who is looking to pad their income or make an extra income or have a full time income, I think live selling is a skill that is a must have, not
Right.
a choice anymore.
Yeah, because, and I've talked about this many times, the whole reskilling landscape is changing, right? It's not just about doing things that we've been doing for the past couple decades of just finding something at the thrift store and then posting it on eBay and hoping for the best. Now you really have to be more strategic. And I think buyers not only want like jewelry, but they also want to connect. They also want to engage. They also want to be part of a community where, someone shares the same interests, values, hobbies, whatever the case may be. And that's what I've noticed in my live shows is like a lot of people continually come back for the community. And
Mm.
so I think part of live selling is building that community because not everybody wants to buy from a live show, but a lot of people will come and just hang out, you know, and that's fine too. But I just think that it's about creating more opportunity in like a different way.
Absolutely. And it's something we don't always remember is that there's a utilitarian purchase, and then there's an emotional purchase. And most
agree.
purchases are emotional. And so having an emotional connection to your audience or creating something that is different within the realm of shopping will trigger that buying experience. And maybe it's a very small thing. It's like a $5 or a $15 grab, but eventually that can grow where that customer becomes on the hot list, as I like to call it. So, like the hot list, these are the customers that have already purchased from you that are more likely
Hmm.
to purchase from you. And when you have those stellar pieces that you want to get premium value for those customers, if you have a longer list, you're more likely to make that sale faster if you're putting it in front of a long, hot customer list. So starting out can be kind of like, who are my people, right? But you start to build that hot list one customer at a time. You get to know them. You nurture the relationship to the best of your ability. Of course, we can't be everyone's best friend on the internet. That's something I struggle with personally because I'm sure you as well, Desiree, because there's a lot of people that enter my world and I'm like, I can't keep in touch with everyone. But
Well, people just love you, so I'm not surprised.
thank you, thank you. I'm also like, I'm very chatty and obviously I put myself out there, but for those of us that are resellers, if you have a healthy customer list, it only takes 100 customers to buy $100 to make $10,000 a year, which is not a huge amount of money, but still, it's just 100. It's just 100 customers
Right, right.
spending a little bit of money, not a lot of it, not a lot, a little bit of money. So think about, okay, if I have 500, or if I have 100 customers, but like 10 of them spend $1,000, like that, then those numbers start to look and feel different. And I believe that the strategy now is building that hot list with live selling, because static selling, you don't build a hot list as much. Maybe occasionally someone comes back, but most likely they're just searching for that one thing and your shop comes up and they're like, okay, cool. Here's my thing. I'm not going to stick around and follow you on
Right.
eBay or follow you on Poshmark, not from the place of like, oh, I'm passionately about you. But if there's that live selling connection, they could be more passionately about you. And so the more you go live, you build that customer list. And then eventually, again, keyword eventually, can feel like a mountain. But eventually you get to that point where you kind of can predict what I'm going to make in a live sale. And that's a really empowering feeling. And you start to buy for your hot list. So if I know that people are really into
Ah,
Juliana,
right.
right? And of course we're all into Juliana, but let's just say, I've got some hardcore people. They'll pay close to retail prices. And I can go find a contact somewhere. And I do want to talk about sourcing briefly, or more extensively. But long story short, if you have people that want Juliana, if you can go find a contact where you can get Juliana at close to wholesale prices, I don't know what those would be, but affordable prices, then you can just be like flipping to these customers that are like, oh my gosh, you're bringing me what I want. So I think that's like the second level of strategy with building a customer list, is basically buying for the customer list. And then anyone else who comes into your world, if they like what you're buying, they're just added to that customer list. Or maybe they come into your world and they're like, well, I'm looking for this. And you're like, well, actually, I could probably start sourcing that.
Hmm.
Start sourcing a little bit of that. And then, the trends and the desires can change and you adjust accordingly. But you're buying things you like, but you're more so thinking based on what I have sold and what people are asking for and who's coming back. You're buying for that more.
Right, right.
Yeah, you're like buying, oh, I like this. Like, look, I love this bolo cameo necklace, but
Oh, that's beautiful.
thank you. But it's like me. Like, I couldn't tell you if there's a customer that is into this. Now, cameo brooches for sure. That's a pretty unique
Yeah,
trend,
that's real
right?
popular.
Yeah, but and so yeah, it just becomes this kind of process of like, how am I continuing to serve the people that are making time for me, and how am I continuing to make them feel special? And maybe that's just because I'm sourcing what they want, or I'm sourcing what they want and I'm like, oh, and this is a good deal. Because people always want a good deal. Like if you're like, oh, this Egyptian revival piece is listed on eBay for $350, but today it's $250 on my live sale. And you have people that want Egyptian revival pieces. This is a true story. I
Exactly.
have a customer who's always asking me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't gone out to look for them because they are hard to find. That's why she asked me. But I bet if I were to get some from my sources, she would buy them in an instant. I could probably send her a message and she'd be like, oh yeah, I'll take this and this. And that that it's just a different way of selling. It's almost like you're like a broker of sorts where you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're like reaching out to different people, but using live selling to actually create that list, that client list initially, and then continuing to build on it.
Yeah, I know. A lot of my buyers have said what they prefer as it relates to
Mm-hmm.
shopping a live show is it eliminates the fatigue of searching through thousands and thousands and thousands of listings on eBay, right? And then they may find something like the title may say Juliana piece, but then they click on it and the pictures aren't great. Or maybe there's only two pictures and they can't see certain angles or whatever.
Right.
And so that's another advantage to live selling is like you're kind of eliminating all of that, searching and scrolling that the buyer would do if they were going to go to eBay or wherever. And then they can see the piece live and in person, right? So they can say, oh, flip it over, or let me see the clasp, or whatever the case may be. And so I think it's also about curating that experience that they can't get shopping from a static listing, right? So not only are we kind of catering to how they like to shop,
Yes.
we're also building the relationship like you said, and then we're also building our brand because that's always part of it as well. So there's just so many things to think about when it comes to live selling, when it comes to, like you said, servicing the customer. And so I think you really have it dialed in by the way you're approaching it, especially with VJA.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's such great points. I love that word fatigue. Yes, fatigue.
It's true because I've done it. When I'm looking for, jewelry to buy, you know how many listings there are for Trifari necklaces? Like
I haven't looked.
tens of thousands,
I will. I'm going to go on eBay and see. I
you
think
know?
that the other beautiful thing about it, and this is for buyers and sellers, because it goes both ways. Buyers, hey, if there's a mistake, if you purchase from a live seller, the chance that you're actually going to be compensated or made up for the mistake it's very high.
Mhm.
Um, on a platform, it's a little bit more like, oh God, I had this return, or oh, rolls
Yeah.
on, they're upset because of this little thing. But like, I had a customer, she's like, yeah, unfortunately, like it broke in shipping. It's not really my fault. Maybe I could have wrapped it a little bit better. So yes, if I take responsibility. So I refunded her the shipping because I'm like, I want to keep you as a customer. And I don't think that that would happen. It actually really can't happen on a platform. You'd have to refund them the whole thing for the most
Yeah.
thing. So long, I mean, basically you can make adjustments as a seller, and buyers can have a little bit more confidence that if there is an issue, they have an open communication loop with that seller.
Right.
And if the seller is kind of like, no, well, they're just going to lose that customer. So it's really to the benefit of both parties. And yeah, and then you can always, as a seller, you can develop a relationship where like you can do private shopping lives for people,
Yes.
and yeah, and just really like make it like your own brick and mortar store. It's just live. It's not like they're actually in your store, like, or in your spare bedroom or wherever you have your inventory, but you're still taking
Mhm.
it into like a store shopping experience. It's virtual reality, guys. We're here. We've arrived. The next step is the hologram and all the things. But yeah, so tell me more as a seller, what have you noticed helps to drive viewership, Desiree? Is it like the presentation? Because I have some thoughts on that, but I'm curious.
Well, I know for me, the more I've done this, the more I realize how important it is to have things that people want to buy, right?
Yeah,
Like there's because I've seen people do shows where they just say, "Oh, vintage jewelry or bracelets or necklaces or brooches," and that's all well and good. But nobody wants like those mass-made cheap brooches. Nobody wants that. So if you can really communicate, I have jewelry that you actually want to see and will
yeah,
want to buy. However you do that, whether you do it through your title of your show, whether you do it through promotions, whether you do it through ads, whether you do it through whatever,
yeah.
really communicating that I have something that they want, because I've learned that it's always best to come from the perspective of what's in it for the buyer,
Oh,
what is in it for them, what is going to make their day, what are they looking for, what do they want, what do they want to experience. And when I come from that approach, I find much more success. The sales are a little bit quote unquote easier in the sense because I'm communicating, I'm here for you as a shopper. I'm here for you, right? I want to give you what you want. I want you to be thrilled to the moon with a piece that you buy from me or several pieces, hopefully.
yeah, yeah.
So that's what I have learned. Now, at first, I didn't really have that approach. I was just like, oh, I've got some really great jewelry and the price is good. So you should
Right.
want to buy
Very basic. Like,
it.
just come.
And
Yeah.
that could work to some degree, but I think if we want to go deeper and we want to foster this long-term relationship that is beneficial for both sides, then I really like to focus on what is in it for the buyer and how can I make this the best possible experience ever. Even if you're only buying a $10 piece, I want it to be something that you're thoroughly happy with and that you want to come back and buy another $10 piece, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, back to my point about as you develop that hot list, then you know exactly what
mhm.
you know. Again, you're like, oh, okay, well, I have people here that like they really love Native American jewelry, and yeah, today is Native
Yes.
American jewelry. Or I have these four pieces, and I tell this to my sellers all the time, and I will admit they're not taking advantage of the opportunity. I think it does come down to a time thing, but if you
Yeah.
make promotional images with like especially jewelry, so easy. Clothing is so much more difficult. You just lay a spread and you just take a overhead photo and
Mhm.
promote it wherever your customer base can see you. With Vintage Jewelry Addicts and other marketplaces on District, we have chat channels. You can put it in the chat channel. You can send it to your hot list and say, hey, here's a little preview of what I'm going to offer tonight. And actually, what I have found is that if you do that and people can't make the live show, they'll say to you, what do you have left? Like it's three
Mm.
hours after the live show. What's left? And then you go, oh, okay, actually, I'll put everything that's left as a buy it now, or maybe it's like the starting auction price as a buy it now just for you. So there's different ways to continue the conversation if you really are setting yourself up to win initially, but you do have to like kind of be in it to win it from the get-go versus this I'm just showing up today and like y'all should show up with me. And I have had to eat the humble pie, the humble slice of pie myself because there was a time where I could do that. And I was hosting live shows on Facebook. And so it was a community and it was like very tight knit, right? But now that, you know, people are hosting lives everywhere, you do have to, again, you have to put in that extra effort of like, I'm servicing the customer. So let me service the customer with like the promotion of what's going to be there so that they know if it's even worth their time to show up.
Yeah.
Um, and also it continues the conversation so that afterwards, like I have a customer, she's in LA and I'm on the East Coast, so I do these 9 a.m. Eastern live shows. She can't come to them, so I was thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen her. And then she let me know it's because like, yeah, she's not up yet. Long story short, now I'm trying to service her with like, okay, this this is something that you might like in the live show. Let me stream it, because you can stream shows to YouTube, you can stream shows to Facebook, and it's easier to share the replay link.
Right.
With Vintage Jewelry Addicts, if anyone here joins as a seller, if you have a Facebook business page, you can stream to that Facebook business page so it lives there, or as well as Instagram. Instagram's a little bit more complicated, but we can teach you. And then you have YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You can share that link out to any of your customers on any of those channels. So if you have customers on Instagram and it's just easier for you to share it on Instagram, you do that. Same with Facebook, same with YouTube. And so that's another reason why I do love District, is that like they've really opened up the capacity for streaming, so that those of us who have pre-existing audiences on different social media platforms, it's easier for us to remind them that we're going live, but also because we have that replay link and we don't have to give them the District replay link, because not everyone eventually joins the platform. And that's just me being very honest, which is like a lot of people, they have app fatigue. They have app fatigue.
Yes, yes. They're
Um,
overwhelmed with so many choices.
they are, but it's like, again, and I would never ever be upset at a seller for doing this. It's like, if you don't sell it on District, but you have that replay link and you sell it off District to someone on Instagram because, they're already a customer and they just PayPal you or whatever, that's fine. I want you, my motto, my life motto has developed into helping people to buy and sell more vintage. So whatever it takes, guys. But I just hope that, as a seller or a customer, that you guys see the beauty of something like District, because it really is helping us all to step forward into having multiple ways to reach the customer base and to service the customer, and ultimately to be more successful as resellers with the time that we're investing into it. Yeah. I just want
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
breath.
I totally agree with everything you say, and the thing I really like about your community and your platform is that you are very supportive in helping people get started, because I think that's where a lot of people freeze up. They're like, "Oh, I've never done my live show or a live show. Oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to work the technical part." Like all of those things. But you and Odelia are just amazing with how you guys really equip new jewelry resellers to succeed at this. I mean, now I'm not saying they're going to have, sold out shows right from the jump, but
Yeah,
it could happen, right? It
I've
totally
seen
could.
some people grow to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And I've had a few of those too, and they're amazing. I'm not saying every show is like that, but so if you are a jewelry reseller looking to learn how to get started with live selling, I can't recommend Vintage Jewelry Addicts enough, because no matter where you are in the journey, you
Yes.
will find support and you will learn how to make this work on your terms, right? Like you don't have to do it the way I do it. You don't have to do it the way Samantha does it. You can do it however you want and what works for you, your business, your life. And that's what I think is really good, that you're providing that in this community, because there isn't really anybody who's willing to hold new resellers' hands like you.
It's true. It's true. And it is very discouraging starting out and feeling like there's nobody there. Um,
Right. Right.
it's kind of soul crushing, actually. I mean, to be on a live sale and it's like two people and you're like, it's me. But at least with the community based live selling platforms, um, there is someone standing by to help you to work through the ups and downs. We actually have
Mhm.
a seller who's fantastic. And we were chatting a little bit last night, and she's kind of going, she's feeling like this. And I'm like, hashtag relate. I get it. We're also, and I want to talk about this, this part about like, I think we're about to go through like a little bit of an economic crisis, as a American culture, for lack of better words. But
Yeah.
there's going to be ebbs and flows. And so I think that you're more likely to give up if you don't have someone to turn to or other sellers to turn to. Of course, selling on other platforms, you're going to eventually meet other sellers, but at least with a community like Vintage Jewelry Addicts, naturally embedded into a community of other sellers, so it's not so difficult to find people to connect with. Um, but yeah, with regards to like the ebbs and flows, and it's like I wish I could be positive Pollyanna about it, but I live in Baltimore, so we're so close to this like federal layoff situation.
Yeah.
My husband works for the government, and we're kind of waiting. He's in a sector I don't think it will be impacted, but he has a colleague who took the buyout because buyouts were offered. It's 8 months of your pay, but that's still changing people's trajectories of like, where am I going to spend money? How am I living my life, right? Because I only
Mhm.
have 8 months of guaranteed pay. I don't know what's going to happen next. And then there are people that have been laid off.
Yeah.
So the housing market in DC has gone down the value by 20% as of like last week. um yeah, so things are changing. It's going to be a ripple effect. Obviously we're already dealing with inflation, and so the nature of live selling will continue to change. I know, Desiree, we chatted a few days ago and you brought up this great point, and I would love to hear from you again about selling lots and how creating a bargain for your buyer, as long as you're still making money,
Mhm.
can really help set you apart in this climate. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what sort of lots have you been selling? Are they like era themed? Are they bracelet or like category themed?
Well, I talked about this in my podcast about 2025 jewelry
That's right.
trends.
Yep.
And so, one of the trends that I noticed, and this is my own prediction, is that there's going to be more bulk to consumer lot, purchases instead of, B2B, business to business, or bulk to business. Even people that are not resellers, they're looking for a
Yeah.
good deal too. And what I've noticed is it kind of takes the apprehension of spending more money if you're packaging a lot or a bulk deal, to where the customer is actually getting more, right? Like they may spend $10 on a necklace. Let's say that's what they want, but they're willing to spend $20 on five necklaces if it makes sense and it's something they want and they like it. That's what I've noticed. And so I don't know if that's sales psychology or if it's just
That's awesome.
something that's trending. But what I've noticed is that they're willing to spend more if you're willing to give them more. And so from that angle, I noticed that people wanted to buy bulk lots, resellers and non-resellers. And so I said, how can I, make this work for me and for my buyer? And so what I have noticed is like, brooch lots, I do really, really well. People love to buy lots of brooches. And I think it's just because brooches are so fun and you could wear two, three at a time. You can switch them out. Like they're so versatile, right? And then it doesn't matter what size you are, a brooch is always going to fit. Right. And then some people like to, they like to give them as gifts. I sold a huge brooch lot during Christmas, and the lady, she bought it. It was a really nice sized lot. And she was just like, oh, wow, this is like all my Christmas gifts, for her family, friends, whatever. She gave them brooches. And so, learning or just observing that, I really do believe there's an opportunity as it relates to selling jewelry in bulk. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's going to want that, but what a nice way to increase our average sale price, and
Yes.
what a nice way to kind of do less and get more, right? Because it takes just as much effort to show a tray of jewelry pieces as it does to show one jewelry piece, right? So as resellers, I think we should definitely have these tiers as it relates to what we're willing to sell and how we bundle our items for our buyers. Of course, you're always going to have the person who just wants the one thing. That's fine, but why not curate a little set of 6 pieces, 10 pieces, even 20 pieces? Now, most people are not looking for hundreds, although you will get some that do. But for the most part, people want like anywhere between 6, 10, 20-ish pieces, if it makes sense for you and if you can still um, make money and make it profitable for you, right? Because I'd much rather sell 20 pieces to one buyer than 20 individual pieces to 20 buyers, right? And then have all the work and the processing that goes along with that, the shipping and all that. So I think it's something to think about. I do believe that that's going to be more popular, especially with the changes, like you just mentioned, in our economy of, other people may be looking into to start getting into this as an additional income stream. They can do it from home. They can do it on their own schedule. You don't need a whole lot to get started. And I've shared this before. I started selling my own personal jewelry, and that's how I got started in the whole thing because I had a ton of jewelry. And I had a very generous ex boyfriend who loved to buy me jewelry.
Awesome.
So that's kind of how I got started because I just had so much. Um, but yeah, so all that to say, back to your point, I do think that if we can kind of tap into that and offer that in addition to what we're already doing, it can only help. I don't see how it would be a negative in any way.
I'm so inspired hearing this. I hope anyone who's watching this is inspired as well, because I have seen it work in the last 3 years with Facebook communities where
Hmm.
people would do a tray and it would be actually all similar in color. And the tray would be
Oh,
up
like a theme, yes.
and the tray would be like up to $80 and
Hmm.
would sell, but it would be easily 20 pieces. But the visual presentation was very attractive. And I'm not seeing it as much in Vintage Jewelry Addicts. So I'm going to begin sharing that. And the flip side, like you said, Desiree, of an economic struggle is that there will be more people turning to secondhand. So people who are used to luxury will be buying their luxury secondhand. People that
Hmm.
still want a treat will be buying secondhand. And by treat, I mean like they just want to give themselves something. Um, unless we hit like a Great Depression, sales are not going to stop. And we might actually attract just a different sector of humanity who would have just bought it new, but now they're like, oh, I'm going to get that Hermes secondhand. So I like to think positive about that. And then the other positive swing on all of this, like you said, Desiree, is like some people will be, okay, cool. I've always had this passion. Let me tap into it as a reseller. The more resellers, the more buyers. So, like for example, like I'm a reseller, but I buy from other resellers all the time,
Right.
not just for my resale business, but for my personal wardrobe, for my personal collection. So
Yes.
that's going to be very positive. And yeah, but I do think like thinking through, okay, how am I going to source differently so that I can afford to showcase these lots? Something I've been suggesting to people, and this is not an overnight thing, this is where it gets tricky, is if you can have a contact somewhere in the country who goes to auctions.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so the online auctions are great. I think most of us are familiar. We can just Google and find them.
Hmm.
Goodwill has some great ones. But over time, they get more competitive because they're the easiest. And you also might not get stuff you like. You're not able to actually
Right.
quite see
Or
it,
it's ridiculously overpriced.
or it's ridiculously overpriced. So if you have someone who kind of calls himself a picker that would buy something for 50 and sell it to you for 75, but
Hmm.
they're still making money and you're still getting a lot, and you're able to support them where you're buying like a couple of things. So I just met someone who's doing that for me. She's based in Pennsylvania, and I told her exactly what I want. And so she's only going to be texting me from the auctions when she sees what I want. Um,
Ah,
and
that's cool.
yeah, and her prices are better than eBay lots. So by me supporting her, I'm saving more money. Also because when I buy like an eBay lot, there's always a percentage of stuff I don't like or it's broken
Yeah.
and it's not good. So it's better for me to go straight to her. So these people exist. They just want to do wholesale, or they just want to do wholesale because they're always selling anyway, so they might as well sell other stuff that they normally wouldn't sell. I think it just comes down to anyone who has a social media following to start asking and not to be afraid to ask. Um, the other strategy is also like something I need to start doing. I'm going to admit to you guys is that your most profitable sales will most likely be house calls, and those are always word of mouth. And
Mm-hmm.
if you can just talk to people, if you can put up a flyer, a Craigslist ad, have some sort of security, maybe bring a partner because you're going to strangers' homes. That's always been where I've been a little apprehensive. But the best places are still house calls. Put your prices up front, be fair. Do not rip people off. I believe in karma. I see some people post Instagram videos of them showing off how they've taken advantage of people, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And it hurts my heart because not like I say, I'm sorry, a souvenir Vietnam jacket, and I'm referring to something that's clothing, shouldn't cost $5. Like that thing's going to sell for 400. Like try to give them a fair price. But long story short, I think that is also like more of the shifts for us as people that are sourcing. But then again, I know Desiree, you still source at thrift stores, you still source at antique garages. So those opportunities are always there. But if you want to buy in bulk, you should really be going straight to house calls, or you should find
Yeah.
someone who can be a picker for you and go to in-person auctions in places that you
Yeah.
never go because they're too far away.
Yeah, you're right. And I've admitted this many times that sourcing at thrift stores and antique malls, I mean, it's not the most valuable use of your time because I can go to a thrift store, look at the jewelry they have, and I may only find one thing in there in the whole jewelry case that I think is worth picking up, for the price that they're asking. So you're not really going to get a whole lot of volume, especially at Goodwill's, because, Goodwill puts all of their best stuff online. It doesn't make it to the
Jewelry.
stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, back when I first started doing this, I could find a lot of pieces at Goodwill. Just now that's not the case. They've gotten smarter. There's more resellers in the game. There's more people looking for jewelry. So yeah, we definitely have to keep our options open as it relates to how we source and what we're willing to source and be ready too, because this is another thing that messes me up. Sometimes I would come across some great bulk deals, but I didn't have the capital to buy it. So
Yeah.
learn from my mistake and always have a little bit of a savings or a cushion aside, because I'm telling you, you're going to find the deals when you least expect it, and you want to be prepared.
It's so true. It's so true. Again, this is like a clothing reference, but palettes are really big. Um,
Hmm.
on whatnot. But I mean, these are $10,000 investments, and obviously, I mean, you should have the following before you start doing that. You can still find a $1,000 palette, um, but it is it's hard. It's hard to make that
Yeah.
investment up front and then mess it up. Or the timing isn't right. So I just purchased a bunch of lots off eBay thinking I was going to get into two markets this month.
Hmm.
Didn't get into them.
Aw.
Didn't get into them. And so I'm just like, oh, okay. So now I'm sort of re-strategizing where I'm ironically putting them back on eBay, but like individual,
Hmm.
because as the lot, it was like $30 an item. I bought a lot of Coach bags basically. And I know I can probably flip them for 60 to 75 easily just on eBay. But the time, in person selling is a lot faster than just the process of getting stuff on eBay. So, um, and again, this is why it is good to have someone to turn to, because these are real ebbs and flows. You're not alone. Inventory debt is real, um, and sometimes we do just have to be willing to let it go at the price we didn't want to pay off the credit card, right? Or we just take that risk
Right.
carrying over the balance until we know that we can reach that audience. But I think that's why back to lots, you know, selling things as lots can feed that money back into your pocket if you are in that situation. You might not make as much per item as if you had listed it individually, but it's what's the phrase? It's a slow quarter,
Oh,
quarter slow dollar, something like
fast nickel versus slow dime.
exactly, exactly.
Yes, and then you also got to think, a lot of people don't think about the processing time, right? Like processing 50 items individually, that eats up a big chunk of your time, right? You know, as opposed to just processing maybe two $25 or 25 piece orders, right? So you got to think about everything, how much time do you have? And then you may not sell 50 items in one show individually,
Yeah,
but you can sell 50 items in one sale as a lot,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so you may want to move that stuff. That's the other thing about live selling is like you can move, inventory quickly and not really like a turn and burn where you're just kind of getting rid of it for the sake of getting rid of it, but I'm just saying there's a whole lot to think about. It's, yes, it's the cost of goods per item, but it's also the time it takes us to show each item individually, to ship each item individually, or however many, and those things could eat into your profits too, right? Because now you're using more shipping supplies, more tape, more bubble wrap, whatever,
Ordering
more
food,
ink.
time to make dinner,
Yes, it's
run
taken time
dinner.
away
Yeah.
from your sourcing, right? Now you have less time to source, you have less time to list. So I'm not saying either way is right or wrong. It's just a matter of really having a good I guess, business mindset and taking into account everything that's involved. Because I would love to only sell $100 and up pieces of jewelry. I would love it. But that's just not the reality of the pieces I can find and source and
Right,
what people are willing to pay, right?
right.
I may think this piece is worth $100, but the market may dictate it's only worth 70.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people, this is stuff you learn as you go. None of us know all of this right off the bat.
Mhm. Nope, nope. And back to change, things change where things that were fetching more money are no longer, or
Yes.
you can sell, like, I always sell things for more in person than live sales. So um, I have to take that into account. But yeah, guys, it's the beauty of resale, however, is that you have so many ways to sell.
Yes.
And I always remind people, okay, yes. And we were just kind of discussing this with like the time it takes just to run the business. Make sure that the time you're investing still is like 50% actual selling, because you can
Mhm.
spend all your time sourcing, you can spend all your time cleaning and organizing. Like, my space is such a mess. I try to organize it. You guys can't see it because I'm hiding it. I try to organize it once a month. If I organized it once a week, I would lose a whole day of work because it just becomes a mess. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, cool, I'm just going to allow this to be a mess and focus on listing on eBay and hitting publish." I have drafts. I need to hit publish today. That is selling.
Yeah.
Um, so it's called income producing activity. So
Yes.
IPA.
IPA.
And it's, right, and I like the beer, but what is your income producing activity? And a lot of people that come to me with struggles, they're not selling enough. They're not doing enough IPAs, and it's frustrating because like some of your IPAs you might not make money, but
Right.
if you stay in the channel of or like the current, the water current, you're continuing to swim. You will reach the ocean, and all of a sudden you'll get paid. But you just can't let yourself be defeated by the fact that, like, because you listed 10 things on Poshmark and nothing sold in a week, you will probably sell those pieces, but it can take time. But then it's also like, okay, cool. You can't just list to continually make money in a consistent way. You also need to be live selling. So it's like, all right, you're listing and then you're live selling. And then it might be like, okay, once a month I'm doing a market. So think of your resale career also in that way where you're like, but how many times a week and how many times a month am I actually doing IPA activities that are
Yes.
different?
Yes, and I'm a big believer in you need to do something every day, right? Something has to be done every day. Now, that doesn't mean you need to physically do something every day. Like the thing you do daily could be just launching your drafts, right? That you have pre-scheduled. You
Yeah.
could be creating content or posting content every day. It doesn't mean you have to be filming and editing every day, but you need to show up daily in some way, shape, or form if you're really going to make this work. Why? Because a lot of other people don't. And so, just by doing that, showing up daily in your business in some way, shape, or form, it's going to pay off. I promise you, everything is cumulative, right? And so, you post a video today, you list every day, I don't know, do a live show twice a week, whatever. You're doing something every day to help put more money in your pocket. And that's the thing that it took me a while to figure out because I was very sporadic and I was getting very sporadic results. And so now I understand the importance of the consistency, like you said, and doing things that actually, put money in our pocket and not things that are just fun, like you said, like organizing the jewelry
Yeah.
or, prettying up our space. And, I mean, that's all fun and well and good, but, that should be secondary.
Yeah. 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 Your space, your inventory space can be a mess and you make okay,
Mine is.
for this. Yes, it can be a mess and you still make a lot of money. You jeopardize the background, like close everything. But yeah, no, Desiree, this has been so great. I can't wait to meet you in Vegas.
Yes, yes, yes. So, Samantha and I are both speaking at the Boss Reseller Remix in Las Vegas next month. I am so excited. I got my presentation is ready to go, and I'm a typical Virgo. That's kind of how we are. We always do things like ahead of,
That's
like
awesome.
early.
What is your presentation? I know what it is, but for the viewers, what is your presentation?
It's the multi-income reseller. So I am going to talk about how to create multiple streams of income as a reseller without having to do a whole bunch of extra work, right? A lot of these things we can just have running in the background. And so that's when I'm gonna break that down and teach everybody how they can do that. So what about you? What are you talking about? I mean, I know, but like you said, for the folks that don't.
It's gonna be so fantastic. I can't wait. I am speaking on sourcing the trends.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how sourcing the trends can really help you to back to inventory debt, decrease inventory debt, because you are buying for what people want versus what you want. Which, if I could buy all day long, I would buy 60s, 70s, 80s clothing, but I can't sell it at the premium prices that I want. What is selling right now is different than what I might want to buy for my own closet. But what's selling right now are the things that I can sell at more premium prices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned how to adjust. I still will source what I like, but I understand that for the market I'm selling to, it's not going to fly off the rack or fly off the table as fast. And so the presentation also has to do with like who are you selling to. So whether that's an in-person event or a live sale or a platform, things
Mm.
will sell differently on eBay than they will on Poshmark, different brands. Depending on your region, different things will sell in Austin versus here in Baltimore versus New York City versus Las Vegas versus LA.
Right.
And so really understanding that, which you should, if you live in that area, you should, but you also like, you just really have to, the way that I'm positioning it is like, you have to stop and smell the roses and be like, oh, okay, this is what is actually selling. Or
Right.
you could just continually spin your wheels. And yeah, so that's my presentation and it won't be done until it's due. But I'm
Good for you.
forward. I'm really looking forward to it. So it's the Boss Reseller Remix.
Mm-hmm.
It's resellerremix.com. and the tickets are about 375,
Yeah,
65.
375, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and I know that Desiree has a coupon code.
Yeah, so do you.
No, but you promote yours in the description if you link. But there is a coupon code, guys, to get $25 off, and I'm pretty sure that the hotels are pretty affordable. Once you get a ticket, there's actually a Facebook group that you can join, and there's a lot of information there. But I think there's information also on the website,
Yeah.
and a lot of food is provided for. I just learned this, so you don't necessarily have to like anticipate paying for 3 meals a day. I believe breakfast is every day, and then one night dinner is provided. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and when I went to the last one for lunch, they have food trucks that
Sweet.
come. Like they have, I think they had two or three different food trucks that would come, and they had like a variety of stuff. So they had like salads, they had burgers, sandwiches. So you can just, you can go somewhere and eat lunch, or they have food trucks that come to the venue, and you can just sit outside or wherever, because it was really nice. The weather should be really nice. Next month, it should be roughly around 60s, 70s ish, and it should be like really, really nice weather. It's not going to be freezing cold, and it's not going to be scorching hot either. So March is really good weather in Vegas. Yeah. So
Excited.
and it's so much fun because it's close to downtown. So if you're familiar with Vegas, it's not far from downtown Fremont Street.
Okay.
And Fremont Street, that's where everybody hangs out at night. Like, if you I don't drink, but if you want to go like bar hopping, there's plenty of that. Of course, there's gambling if you're into that. So there's so much to do and so much to see, like if even if you've never been in that area. And I think one of the nights they have a costume contest at it's called Container Park, which is a real popular area downtown Las Vegas. And so they're going to do like a little costume contest. I think what it is your whole outfit has to be like thrifted, and
Yeah.
then they judge, who has the best full on like thrifted outfit. And it could be from any era. Like I think somebody had like a 70s costume last time that won. I can't remember, but it's really fun. So it's going to be a blast. People did zip lining last time. Yeah, because they have a zip line in downtown Fremont Street. So it's really cool.
Oh wow. Okay, so Desiree is hyping it up for me. I've been to Vegas like 4 times. So I think this is my fifth time, but there's always more. Um,
Yeah.
and there is actually a meetup for anyone who doesn't buy a ticket or is, economically like it's not for me right now. The first night, which is March 11th, there is a meetup. And that's open to everyone. So that's at resellerremix.com. I think they have the
Hmm.
table.
Yeah, it's
So
like a mixer, like a networking mixer that first night.
we would love to meet you. We would love to talk jewelry with you. Um, Maybe talk to you about your income producing activities,
Yes.
teaching, take some photos. I'm definitely going to be wearing a lot more jewelry. Um, and
I know. I can't wait to see your outfits because I know you're going to be the most stylish one there.
I crazy outfits. I'm like 70% clothing, 30% jewelry. With like that random 5% of like stuff you just throw on eBay because you're like, I think this will sell. But yeah, no, I'm so honored to be speaking alongside Desiree and meeting her in person. We've known each other now virtually for almost a year.
Yeah.
So that's the other beautiful thing about coming to a conference is that you do meet people that you may have followed. There's tons of other speakers, huge billboard lining speakers, or like I'm sorry, lining headliners.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah. It's
kind
going
of
to
the
be good.
small fries, you and I, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
I'm small potatoes compared to some of the other people
Yes,
there.
but it'll be all good. So yeah, guys, we hope that at the very least, if you're local, that you come to the meetup on the first night.
Yes. I think, yeah, because I think you're right. That's open to everyone. So, like,
Yeah,
you don't have to have a ticket for that. You can just show up, if you're in Vegas, of course. So, but yeah, I'm going to be taking a ton of pictures. So don't worry, everybody. If you follow me and Samantha on Instagram because I'm sure we'll both be posting a lot of reels and pictures, and maybe we'll even go live, or who knows? Who knows what's going to happen that week? It's just going to be oodles and oodles of fun.
I will not be sleeping. I'm always very tired after these conferences, so
Yeah,
because I just go like full on, and I'm like a 9 hour a night sleeper, so I will probably
I am too. I got sick last year, like afterwards, because I think I didn't get enough rest during, so I got like a little bit of a cold. So, heads up, make sure you get your rest, drink your water, take your vitamins, all the things.
all the things, totally all the things. But this has been great, Desiree. Thank you so much for continuing, and guys, please give her some love in the comments because Desiree is giving you so much information on this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much,
Over
Sammy.
100 videos of free expertise that you could just listen
Aw.
to and you are ready to go. So thank you, Desiree, for what you do for the jewelry community.
Well, and thank you. Like I said, nobody out there is willing to hold hands with the newbies. So I appreciate you doing that and making the space safe, for all of us to really do this and make it work and make money and build a community and all the things. So I can't thank you enough for what you do as it relates to educating a lot of us because you know like I don't there's I mean there's still a lot I don't know, and I learn something every time I talk to you, so that's wonderful.
Thank you, vice versa.
All right, everybody, so make sure that you connect with Vintage Jewelry Addicts. I will have a link in the description and in the show notes, and make sure, like I said, you follow us on Instagram because we have a lot more juicy content coming your way.
In person. Yes. Thank you so much, Desiree.
Thanks, Samantha.